Hello, welcome back. My father passed away on a Thursday evening, right as the sun was setting. Some say that God knows just the right time to call his people home. But what they don't mention is how the real reckoning often begins for those left behind once the casket is shut. That morning, when Jimmy Swaggart's funeral was held, the air was heavy. The sky overcast as if heaven itself was mourning. Crowds came in from every direction, former congregation members, singers, fellow ministers, all dressed in black. Whispering as they entered the sanctuary, everything seemed calm on the surface. But there was a current of unease running underneath it all, inside. The worship music filled the space gently, yet it couldn't cover the invisible strain that hung in the air. Frances Swaggart sat quietly in the front row, her face hidden behind a lace veil. Her expression unreadable. Donnie stood behind her, trying to keep himself together. But this wasn't just about losing his father, it was about facing the shadows his father had left behind. Jimmy Swaggart was seen as a giant in the faith, a televangelist who had once reached millions. But to Donnie, he was simply Dad, strong, stubborn, and lately fragile. And before he died, he said something that wouldn't let Donnie sleep: "Don't trust everything your mother says." It had haunted him ever since. Looking around during the funeral, Donnie couldn't shake the feeling that the service wasn't the ending, it was the beginning of something hidden. He remembered the last conversation he had with his father. It was a quiet night. Jimmy had grown frail, no longer preaching, no more TV broadcasts echoing through the house, just stillness. Donnie had gone to see him in his study. The moment felt important. Jimmy, bundled in a blanket, asked him to shut the door. Then he looked up, voice raspy, eyes sharp, and began to speak about the ministry. He spoke of building it from nothing, of watching it change after 1991. He said Frances had started taking over, claiming to protect the ministry, but he feared really protecting herself. Then Jimmy handed Donnie a small, worn key. He said it opened a hidden drawer. "There are things the public doesn't know," he whispered, "and when I'm gone, they'll come faster than you think." Those words hit Donnie like a hammer. Could his mother, the face of strength during storms, really be hiding something? Jimmy closed his eyes and left it at that, trusting Donnie would know what to do. At the funeral, Donnie took the stage, the key in his pocket, cold and pressing against his chest. He looked over the audience, ministers, singers, his mother. Her face showed no emotion. He wanted to tell the truth right there, but he wasn't ready, so instead, he spoke from the heart, talking about his father's passion, his imperfections, his sincerity. It was honest, but it wasn't the whole story. As he stepped down, he knew he couldn't carry this inside forever. Later that day, when the crowds had gone, Donnie returned to his father's office. He used the key, opened the drawer, and found more than he ever expected. Inside were envelopes labeled with years, initials, and cryptic words: control, redemption, Frances. He read letters alleging financial misdeeds, money redirected into private accounts under Frances's name, written by a former advisor who'd disappeared from the ministry. Audio transcripts painted Frances as cold and controlling. In one video, she spoke at a private meeting, saying if Jimmy ever fell again, the ministry wouldn't rebuild around him, but around the Swaggart name, with her steering the ship. It shook Donnie. Memories of being sidelined, of decisions made without him, now looked entirely different. Then he found a letter labeled just for him. It was in Jimmy's handwriting. It said he'd given up control because he was tired and ashamed. But Donnie still had the strength to lead with integrity. He warned Donnie not to become like them. That letter broke something open inside. Days later, Donnie returned to the pulpit. This time, the room was filled not with mourners but with staff, family, and press. He didn't come as a preacher or a son, but as a man ready to tell the truth. He didn't make accusations. He simply laid out the facts, the letters, the recordings, and his father's final message. He looked over at Frances. She remained silent, her face unreadable. Donnie closed the folder and said he couldn't build his future on lies. He wouldn't let his father's last words die in silence. Then he stepped down. No claps, no fanfare. Just the truth finally being spoken in a place that had long known only performance.